I overheard my father-in-law planning to frame me for embezzlement on a fishing trip. I exposed his crimes and uncovered a dark family secret that changed everything. I never thought I'd be in this situation. My name is Alex, 32M, and I've been married to Samantha, 30F, for 8 years. We have 2 beautiful kids, Allison, 6F, and Liam, 4M. Our life has been pretty great up until now, and a big part of that was due to my relationship with my father-in-law, Terrence, 58M. Let me give you some background. I met Samantha during our sophomore year of college. We were both studying business, and we hit it off immediately. She was this vibrant, intelligent woman who could light up a room with her smile. I fell hard and fast. When I met her family for the first time, I was nervous, but Terrence, her dad, put me at ease right away. He was this larger-than-life character, loud, funny, and incredibly welcoming. He owned a construction company that he'd built from the ground up, and he loved talking about his work. Over time, Terrence became like a second father to me. My own dad passed away when I was young, so having Terrence in my life filled a void I didn't even know I had. We bonded over our shared love of sports, bad action movies, and terrible dad jokes. After Samantha and I got married, Terrence offered me a job at his company. I was hesitant at first. Working for family can be complicated. But Terrence assured me that he saw potential in me, and he wanted to mentor me in the business. For the past 5 years, I've been working my way up in the company. Terrence has been an incredible mentor, teaching me everything from project management to client relations. He always said he was grooming me to take over the company one day. About 3 years ago, Terrence and I started a tradition of going on fishing trips every other weekend. It began when he invited me along on a trip with his buddies, but his friends had to cancel at the last minute. We decided to go anyway, just the 2 of us, and we had a blast. These fishing trips became our thing. We'd drive out to this little lake about 2 hours from the city, rent a small boat, and spend the day on the water. We'd talk about everything: work, family, our hopes and fears. I felt like I could tell Terrence anything. Last month, Terrence invited me on a special fishing trip to celebrate my upcoming birthday. He said he had a surprise for me, which wasn't unusual. Terrence loved giving surprises, whether it was concert tickets hidden in my desk or an unexpected bonus at work. We drove up to this beautiful lakeside cabin he'd rented for the weekend. It was more luxurious than our usual spots, with a huge deck overlooking the water and a fully stocked kitchen. The first day was perfect. We caught a bunch of fish, grilled them for dinner, and stayed up late talking and laughing. The next morning, I woke up early, still on my usual work schedule. I decided to make breakfast as a thank you to Terrence for the trip. That's when things took a turn I never saw coming. As I was in the kitchen, I heard Terrence's phone ring in the other room. He answered, and I could hear his voice rise in anger. Curious and a bit concerned, I moved closer to the door to listen. What I heard next made my blood run cold. Terrence was talking to someone about embezzling money from the company. He mentioned fake invoices, offshore accounts, and a plan to frame someone if things went south. And the person he planned to frame? Me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man I looked up to, who I thought of as a second father, was not only committing a crime, but was ready to throw me under the bus to save himself. I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. In that moment, memories started flashing through my mind. Little things that hadn't seemed significant at the time suddenly took on new meaning. The way Terrence would sometimes get tense when certain clients were mentioned. The late nights he spent at the office alone. The new car he bought Samantha's mom last year, even though business had been slow. I didn't confront him immediately. I was in shock, scared, and unsure of what to do. We were in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't know how he'd react if I confronted him. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I pretended everything was normal for the rest of the trip. I smiled at his jokes, talked about work like nothing was wrong, and even let him win at cards that night. Inside, I was screaming. Every laugh, every casual touch on the shoulder felt like a betrayal. When we got back home, I was a mess. I couldn't tell Samantha. How do you tell your wife that her father, the man she adores, is a criminal? I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I went to work, I felt like I was walking into a trap. I started noticing things at work, too. The way certain invoices were handled differently. The clients who always paid in cash. The projects that seemed to cost more than they should. After a week of agonizing, I decided I needed to do something. I couldn't let Terrence frame me for his crimes. But I also couldn't just go to the police without proof. It would be my word against his, and he had a lot more influence than me. So I started gathering evidence. I stayed late at work, going through financial records, making copies of suspicious documents. It was risky, but I felt I had no choice. Every night I'd come home late, telling Samantha I was working on a big project. I hated lying to her, but I didn't know what else to do. One night, as I was going through some old files, I found something that made everything worse. It was a photo from the company's early days, showing Terrence with his original business partner, my dad. I knew they'd known each other, but I had no idea they'd worked together. I called my mom that night, asking her about Dad's relationship with Terrence. She told me a story I'd never heard before. Apparently, my dad and Terrence had started the company together, but when my dad died, Terrence had bought out his share for a fraction of what it was worth, leaving my mom with almost nothing. Now everything made sense. The way Terrence had taken me under his wing, the job offer, the mentoring. Was it all because of guilt? Or was he using me somehow, planning to frame me all along? That's where I am now. I have a folder full of evidence that points to Terrence's embezzlement. I have questions about my own family history that I can't answer. And I have a wife and kids who have no idea that their world is about to be turned upside down. I love Samantha and our kids more than anything. The thought of losing them or disappointing them is killing me. But I also can't live with this secret anymore. Every time Allison asks to visit her grandpa or Liam wants to show Terrence his latest Lego creation, I feel like I'm betraying them. I'm lost and don't know what to do. How do I protect my family, both from Terrence's crimes and from the pain of the truth? How do I honor my dad's memory? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and to say a lot has happened would be an understatement. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. Your words helped me find the courage to face this impossible situation. After much consideration, I decided to confront Terrence. I know many of you advised against it, but I felt I needed to give him a chance to explain. Maybe there was some misunderstanding, or maybe he was being blackmailed. I needed to know the truth, not just about the embezzlement, but about his history with my dad. I asked Terrence to meet me at a local park after work. It was a place we often went to chat during lunch breaks, a neutral ground of sorts. When he arrived, I could see the confusion on his face. This wasn't our usual meeting spot or time. I got straight to the point, telling him what I'd overheard at the cabin and what I'd found in the company records. I also asked him about my dad, showing him the old photo I'd found. His reaction was not what I expected. Instead of denying it or getting angry, he broke down. Right there in the park, this man who I'd always seen as strong and unshakable began to cry. He confessed everything, telling me a story that left me speechless. It started years ago when the company was just getting off the ground. My dad and Terrence had been best friends since high school, and they'd always dreamed of starting a business together. They took out loans, poured their savings into the company, and worked around the clock to make it successful. But then my dad got sick. The cancer came on suddenly and aggressively. Terrence said he and my dad had made a pact. If anything happened to either of them, the other would buy out their share and take care of the family. So when my dad died, Terrence bought out his share. He admitted that he'd undervalued the company at the time, but not out of greed. The company was struggling, and he was terrified it would go under. He thought that giving my mom a smaller, guaranteed amount was better than risking her getting nothing if the company failed. The guilt over this decision had haunted Terrence for years. It's why he'd been so keen to bring me into the company, to mentor me. He saw it as a way to make things right, to give me the legacy my father would have wanted me to have. But a few years ago, things took a dark turn. The company landed a huge government contract, which should have been great news. But one of the government officials involved demanded kickbacks. Terrence refused at first, but the official threatened to not only kill the contract, but also to blacklist the company from any future government work. Terrence gave in, starting a slippery slope of illegal payments and cooked books to cover them up. He said he'd been trying to find a way out, but these people were dangerous. They'd threatened his family, including Samantha and our kids. He admitted that framing me was a desperate plan he'd considered but couldn't go through with. He said he'd rather turn himself in than hurt me or his family. I was stunned. Part of me was relieved that he hadn't really intended to frame me, but another part was furious that he'd even considered it. And now we had a bigger problem. These dangerous people who were threatening our family. I told Terrence we needed to go to the police. He was reluctant, scared of what might happen to the family, but I convinced him it was the only way to protect everyone in the long run. We spent hours at the police station. Terrence confessed everything, and I turned over all the evidence I'd gathered. The police took it seriously, especially when they heard about the threats. When we left the station, Terrence looked both relieved and terrified. He asked me not to tell Samantha yet, to give him a chance to turn himself in to the family. I agreed, but only if he did it within the next 24 hours. That night was one of the longest of my life. I couldn't sleep, thinking about how this would affect Samantha and the kids. I thought about my own dad, wondering what he would have done in this situation. The next morning, Terrence called a family meeting at his house. Watching him confess to Samantha, her mom Linda, 56F, and her siblings was heart-wrenching. Samantha was in shock, alternating between crying and yelling. Linda just sat there, pale and silent. Samantha's brothers reacted with anger, shouting at Terrence for putting the family at risk. When Terrence finished his story, all eyes turned to me. I explained my part in uncovering the truth, trying to be as gentle as possible. I also shared what I'd learned about my dad's history with the company. Samantha looked at me with a mix of gratitude and betrayal, grateful that I'd helped uncover the truth, but hurt that I'd kept it from her, even for a short time. Her brother seemed unsure whether to thank me or blame me for bringing this to light. Linda, who had been quiet throughout the whole ordeal, finally spoke up. She revealed that she'd suspected something was wrong for a while, but had been too afraid to dig deeper. She thanked me for having the courage to do what she couldn't. The family is in chaos now. Terrence is cooperating with the police, hoping for leniency. The company's future is uncertain. Samantha is struggling to come to terms with everything: her father's crimes, the threat to our family, and the connection to my father's legacy. As for me, I'm trying to be there for my wife and kids while dealing with my own emotions. I feel relieved that the truth is out, but guilty for the pain it's caused. I'm worried about the future, my job, our financial stability, the safety of our family. I'm also grappling with my feelings about my dad. Learning about his role in founding the company has stirred up grief I thought I'd dealt with long ago. I find myself wishing he was here to guide me through this mess. I'll post another update when I have more news. Right now, we're just taking it one day at a time, trying to hold our family together in the face of this storm. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and things have been intense. The investigation into Terrence's embezzlement and the people threatening him has been ongoing. The police have made some progress, arresting 2 individuals connected to the threats, but there are still loose ends. Terrence is facing charges, but his cooperation has worked in his favor. His lawyer is negotiating a plea deal. It looks like he'll serve some time, but not as much as he could have if he hadn't turned himself in. The company is in turmoil. I've been working with Terrence's lawyer and a team of accountants to untangle the financial mess. It's exhausting work. Every day brings new surprises: hidden accounts, questionable contracts, suppliers who were in on the scheme. I'm learning more about the dark side of business than I ever wanted to know. Despite the challenges, I'm determined to save the company. It's not just about preserving my own job or the family legacy. We employ over 200 people, and I feel responsible for their livelihoods. Plus, a small part of me sees this as a chance to finish what my dad started, to make the company what it should have been all along. Samantha has been on an emotional roller coaster. Some days she's angry at her dad and pushes everyone away. Other days she's devastated and needs constant support. I'm doing my best to be there for her, but it's taking a toll on me too. The hardest part has been explaining the situation to our kids. We decided to be honest with them in an age-appropriate way. We told them that Grandpa made some mistakes and had to go away for a while to make things right. Allison, being older, asked a lot of questions. She wanted to know if Grandpa was a bad guy now. It broke my heart to see her trying to reconcile her love for her grandfather with what he'd done. Liam doesn't fully understand but knows something is wrong. He's been having nightmares and has become clingy, especially with Samantha. We're doing our best to maintain a sense of normalcy for them, but it's challenging. Samantha's mom, Linda, has been a rock through all of this. She's moved in with us temporarily to help with the kids and support Samantha. It's been a blessing, but also challenging as we navigate this new family dynamic. Linda and I have had some late-night talks about Terrence, about my dad, about the nature of forgiveness. Her strength and wisdom have been a source of comfort. Work has been another challenge. I'm essentially running the company now, with guidance from our lawyers and accountants. It's a huge responsibility, and I'm learning as I go. The employees have been supportive, but I can feel the uncertainty in the air. I've had to let some people go, those who were involved in the illegal activities, or who I simply can't trust anymore. Each decision weighs heavily on me. On a personal level, I'm struggling with trust. Terrence's betrayal has made me question everything. I find myself double-checking everyone's work, paranoid about making the same mistakes Terrence did. I know it's not healthy, but I can't seem to help it. Samantha and I started couples counseling to help us navigate this situation. It's been helpful, giving us tools to communicate better and support each other through this crisis. We've had some hard conversations about trust, about family loyalty, about what we want for our future. Despite everything, I'm cautiously optimistic. We're facing this as a family, and I believe we'll come out stronger on the other side. It's not going to be easy, but we're committed to making it work. I'll update again when there are significant developments. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update. Things have settled into a new normal, though it's far from easy. Terrence's case has been resolved. He accepted a plea deal and is serving a 5-year sentence. It's less than he could have gotten, largely due to his cooperation and the circumstances of the threats against the family. Samantha and the kids have visited him once. It was a difficult experience for all of them, seeing him in prison uniform, but I think it was important for the healing process. The company has stabilized somewhat. We've implemented new financial controls and brought in outside auditors to ensure everything is above board. I'm officially the new CEO, which is both exciting and terrifying. The responsibility is enormous, but I'm committed to running the company ethically and successfully. We've lost some clients due to the scandal, but we've also gained some new ones who appreciate our commitment to transparency. It's been a crash course in crisis management and public relations. Every day brings new challenges, but I'm learning and growing. Samantha has been seeing a therapist to work through her feelings about her dad. It's helping, but she still has bad days. Sometimes she'll come across an old family photo or one of the kids will mention Grandpa, and it all comes flooding back. But overall, she's showing incredible strength. She's even started helping out at the company, using her marketing background to help rebuild our image. Our relationship has grown stronger through this ordeal. We've learned to lean on each other and communicate better than ever before. There are still moments of tension, especially when we disagree on how to handle family matters related to Terrence, but we're working through them together. The kids are adjusting, slowly but surely. We've maintained contact with Terrence through supervised phone calls and letters. It's not ideal, but we're trying to preserve their relationship with their grandfather while being age-appropriately honest about the situation. Allison has started asking more questions about my dad recently. I think all this has made her curious about family history. It's bittersweet, but I'm glad to share stories about him with her. Linda has moved back to her own house, but she's still a frequent visitor and a huge help with the kids. Her relationship with Samantha has deepened through this shared trauma. They've started a weekly wine and wine night where they can vent and support each other. It's good to see them laughing together again. As for me, I'm learning to trust again, both in business and in my personal life. The experience has made me more cautious, but also more appreciative of the good people in my life. I've started reaching out to old friends I'd lost touch with, rebuilding my support network. I've also been diving into the company's history, learning more about my dad's role in its founding. It's been a way to feel connected to him and to honor his memory. I even found some of his old notebooks with ideas for the business. Some of them are outdated, but others have sparked new initiatives that are helping us move forward. We're not out of the woods yet. There are still challenges ahead. Terrence's eventual release, rebuilding the family's reputation, ensuring the long-term success of the company. But we're facing these challenges together as a family. This experience has taught me a lot about resilience, forgiveness, and the complexity of human nature. It's not the life I expected, but I'm grateful for the strength we've found and the bonds we've forged through this crisis. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and kind words have been a source of strength in my darkest moments. I may not update again for a while, but know that your support has made a real difference in our lives.